On Thanksgiving, I stood shoulder to shoulder with my daughter, my son-in-law, and his parents, smiling stiffly into the camera. There were 15 of us jammed into that living room. Kids fidgeting, adults pretending they were not exhausted, the turkey already resting in the kitchen, filling the house with that deep, savory smell that takes you straight back to childhood. "Say cheese!" my grandson yelled. The flash went off. Everyone laughed. I thought, in that brief, blinding second, that I finally had my family back. 30 minutes later, I was standing on the sidewalk outside my daughter's house in my good coat, holding my jacket in one hand like a stranger clutching a shopping bag, while my daughter looked me in the eye and said, "Well, Dad, I'll send you the photo by mail. Bye." She meant it. It took me another 2 hours of walking past warm, glowing windows and happy families before I realized something. I hadn't lost everything that evening. I had lost one version of a family, but I had also gained something small, fragile, and furious that would ultimately save my life and destroy hers. Not with my hands, with my absence. With one silent click on my banking app, I ended my daughter's future in that house. She just did not understand it yet. She did not know I was the invisible hand keeping her roof over her head. She did not know she was eating Thanksgiving dinner in a house that, for years, had been paid for by the old man she had just thrown out into the cold, like a dog. And she did not know that on the second shelf of my bedroom closet, behind my late wife's shawl, there was a safe. Inside that safe were two things: a will that put $900,000 aside to pay off her mortgage in full, and a fountain pen. The night she told me I was no longer family, I opened that safe, fed a stray kitten from a saucer, and rewrote my daughter's fate with that pen. By the time the bank took her house, my daughter finally understood what it meant to say, "Go whine somewhere else." Because when she came crawling to me on her knees months later, sobbing and begging me to save her, there was nowhere else to whine. Just me. The man she'd kicked out after the family photo. The man she thought was done. She was wrong. Very wrong. I am 71 years old, and I have buried two people in my life. My parents when I was young. My wife when I was old. My parents went quickly. A car crash on a wet highway 45 years ago. It was terrible, but sudden. A phone call, an identification, a funeral, and then the long ache that fits itself around your ribs and never quite leaves. My wife, though, died slowly. Cancer is a thief that takes everything, one piece at a time. It steals hair and appetite and sleep, then dignity, then breath. It took my Margaret over 18 months, and when we finally laid her in the ground 3 years ago, I felt like I'd been hollowed out with a spoon. After that, I withdrew. Our daughter Lily tried at first. "Dad, come over for dinner," she would say. "Dad, come see the kids. Dad, at least answer my calls." But grief is selfish. It wants you alone. It wants you staring at her chair at the table, at her toothbrush still in the bathroom, wondering how the world can continue to turn when she is not on it anymore. So I refused. I made excuses. I told myself it was better for them, that they should be allowed to live their lives without their widowed father hovering like a rain cloud. Then time passed, as it does. 1 month turned to 6. 6 months turned to a year. Our phone calls got shorter. Her texts grew rarer. "Where are you, Dad? You okay? Everything all right?" I answered with one-word replies. "Fine. Busy. Later." While I was grieving, my daughter was trying to keep her own young family from falling apart. Her husband, Bryce, lost his job during a round of layoffs. For a while he drifted from one contract to another. Their mortgage, taken at the top of the market, began to weigh like an anvil around their necks. Lily tried to put a brave face on it. "It's temporary," she said to me one afternoon, sitting at my kitchen table, hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. "Bryce will find something else. We'll be okay." I looked at her then and saw myself 35 years earlier. Young, desperate, newly married, pretending not to be terrified when a bill was slid across a desk. "Show me the numbers," I said quietly. She protested. I insisted. "I am an old accountant. Numbers have always spoken to me more clearly than people." In 30 minutes, with a notepad and a calculator, I saw the truth. They were sinking. Not yet underwater, but the tide was coming in fast. "I'll help," I told her. "Let me take care of the mortgage, at least for a while." She shook her head. "Dad, no. I can't let you." "It's not up for debate," I said in the same tone I'd once used to tell her she was grounded for sneaking out at 16. In the end, we made an arrangement. The mortgage remained in her and Bryce's names, but I set up a standing payment from my account. Every month, without her having to think about it, a significant portion of that crushing debt evaporated into my bank's servers. "We'll pay you back," she said. "Just raise my grandchildren well," I replied. I could afford it. I had Margaret's life insurance, my pension, a modest but comfortable nest egg from a lifetime of careful work. I had saved with my daughter in mind. My plan had always been simple: leave this world having given her stability, a roof, and a cushion. But then Margaret died, and my heart broke. In my grief, I stopped going over there so often. Still, my money continued to walk to the bank every month on silent feet. The house they lived in, the one with the white porch and the maple tree in the front yard, became as much my responsibility as theirs. I paid silently. They lived loudly. Pictures went up on social media. Vacations, new car, Bryce's craft beer nights, Lily's girls' brunches. The kids' birthday parties were elaborate enough to make my own childhood look like a gray documentary. I did not begrudge them that. Youth is meant to be loud. Mine had been. Besides, Margaret would have wanted them safe. The year after her funeral, I went almost nowhere. I moved around my house like a ghost. Sometimes I would sit for hours in the dim, late afternoon light, staring at the photograph of our little family, me, Margaret, Lily at 14 with braces, all three of us grinning in a way I had forgotten how to do. I declined invitations. I made excuses. Eventually, Lily stopped asking. It would have stayed that way, perhaps, if not for the kitten. It started with a phone call 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. "Dad?" Lily's voice sounded cautious, as if I might hang up at any second. "Yes." We're having Thanksgiving at our place this year. Bryce's parents are coming. The kids really want you there." I looked at the calendar pinned to the fridge. Since Margaret's death, the holidays were just dates I ignored. "Bryce's parents," I repeated. I hadn't seen them in 2 years. We'd never been particularly close. They came from a different world. Corporate, polished. Their vacations were cruises. Their hobbies were golf and country clubs. They'd always treated me as if I were a temporary inconvenience in their son's life story. Still, they were my daughter's in-laws. What they thought should not have mattered. But somehow it did. "I'll come," I said. Silence on the line, then a breath of relief. "Oh, good. The kids will be so happy. Can you be here by 3? We'll do photos first, then dinner." "Photos?" "Yeah. I booked a photographer. You know, a proper family picture. We haven't done one since Mom." She trailed off. Neither of us finished that sentence. "I'll be there," I repeated. For the first time in months, I dug my suit out of the closet. It smelled faintly of cedar and old cologne. I brushed my hair, trimmed my beard, polished the shoes Margaret had bought me one birthday when she was tired of seeing me in scuffed leather. Thanksgiving Day was cold but bright, the kind of day where the sky feels like clean glass and every breath is a little cloud. I drove slowly, hands tight on the wheel, ears filled with the soft hiss of the tires on the asphalt. On the passenger seat beside me lay a box wrapped in understated paper, a set of antique storybooks I'd found in a small shop downtown for my granddaughter. Margaret would have approved. As I turned onto Lily's street, I couldn't help but notice the details. New landscaping. A freshly painted front door. A late-model SUV in the driveway, the kind with features that cost extra for no reason. My money, I thought, not bitterly, but with a strange, detached curiosity. That is my overtime, my canceled vacations, my salt on the roads winter mornings driving to work. I rang the doorbell and heard the chaos inside. Children's footsteps, Lily's voice, Bryce's deeper murmur, an unfamiliar female laugh that must have belonged to his mother. The door opened. "Dad!" Lily smiled wide and bright, like she used to when she was little and I came home with ice cream. She stepped forward and hugged me. For a moment I smelled her shampoo, the same floral scent she used when she was 16 and begging to go to a concert. For a moment I allowed myself to believe things were healing. Come in," she said, tugging my arm. "We just finished setting the table. Mom's turkey recipe. Remember how it always took her forever to get the skin crispy?" I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. They guided me in through the house, past the living room with its big sectional, the wall-mounted television that made my old set look like a shoebox, the curated shelves of meaningless decorations, letters, candles, framed print art. Bryce's parents were in the dining room, admiring the table. His mother, Denise, turned at the sound of my footsteps. "Howard," she said coolly, "you made it." She was worried you'd forget, her husband, Leonard, added with a smirk. "I remember my daughter," I replied. If they heard the edge under my words, they ignored it. The photographer arrived shortly after, a young man with a too bright smile and an expensive camera. He fussed with lighting, positions, angles. The children were lined up. Adults arranged behind, then to the side, then perched on the arm of the couch. I was guided into the middle row, between Lily and Bryce. "Could you move a bit left?" the photographer asked, not looking at me. "No, left. No, sorry, I meant you. The grandfather. Yes, perfect." I moved. We smiled on command. The flash popped again and again. As we posed, I noticed small things. The way Bryce's arm curved protectively around Lily's waist when she laughed. The way his father's hand rested possessively on his mother's shoulder. The way Lily's fingers did not reach for mine. "Okay," the photographer finally announced. "We got it. That's a wrap. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone." As soon as he packed up his equipment, Bryce turned to his parents, already discussing wine pairings and football games. Lily stood near the hallway, phone in hand. "Dad," she said, walking over to me, "I'll send you the photo by mail, okay?" "By mail?" I repeated, confused. "You mean you'll email it?" "No." She gave a strained laugh. "I mean, I'll print it and mail it. For your wall. You know." She looked nervous. "Why are you saying goodbye?" I asked quietly. She exhaled sharply, as if bracing herself. "Dad, look," she began, voice dropping. We're going to have dinner now, and then maybe a game night. But what? You wouldn't be interested with us anyway," she blurted. "It's a different crowd, you understand. Bryce's parents, his friends, they're used to a certain vibe. You just don't fit in, so go home," I finished for her. She flinched. "We want to relax as a family," Lily said, almost pleading. "Please understand I've been so stressed. It's just easier if I'm not here." Silence stretched between us like fishing line, taut and invisible. Denise called from the dining room. "Lily, is the gravy ready? We're starving in here." I looked at my daughter, my only child. "What do you mean I don't fit in?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "Am I no longer part of the family?" "Dad, don't make this harder," she hissed, eyes flicking toward the dining room. "You've been so distant. You never come around. You don't talk to anyone. You always sit in the corner looking sad, It bums people out. I buried my wife, I said. Yes, and it was horrible. And I miss her too, she snapped, color rising in her cheeks. But we're trying to move on, to have normal holidays. You just drag everything down. Her words hit harder than I care to admit. And Bryce's parents? I nodded toward the dining room. Do they feel the same way? They don't understand you, she said weakly. They say you're old-fashioned. You don't get their jokes. You don't like their restaurants. You never travel. It's just... Dad, please. I can't spend the whole evening worrying whether you're comfortable, whether you're judging everyone. Judging, I repeated. She folded her arms, the way she used to when she was 16 and furious about a curfew. You're doing it right now, she said. That look, like the whole world disappoints you. The whole world doesn't, I said. Just this room. Her face hardened. Fine, she spat. Go whine somewhere else. She snatched my jacket from the coat rack, pushed it against my chest, and pointed at the front door. For a moment I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I looked past her into the dining room. Through the doorway I could see the table. Turkey carved, mashed potatoes steaming, glasses filled, chairs occupied. One chair was empty. Mine. Lily, I said softly, don't do this. You already did, she replied. 2 years ago when you disappeared on us. When Mom died and you couldn't even bother to show up for your own grandkids. You shut us out, Dad. Now I'm protecting myself. With that, she opened the door. Cold air rushed in. Behind me I heard Bryce's voice. Everything okay, babe? Yeah, Lily called back. Dad was just leaving. The worst part? Nobody protested. Not Bryce. Not his parents. Not even the kids, who were too busy arguing over who got the drumstick to notice their grandfather slipping out into the freezing November afternoon. The door closed behind me with soft finality. For a long time I simply stood on the front step, jacket in hand, feeling ridiculous. A 71-year-old man in his best coat, holding a wrapped box, staring at the door of a house his money had kept standing. Cars drove past, wipers smearing drizzle over their windshields. A neighbor across the street adjusted his Christmas lights, glancing over briefly before pointedly looking away. No one likes to witness humiliation. It is a mirror that shows too much. I could have gone straight to my car. Instead, I walked. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't ready to sit yet. Maybe I thought if I circled the block a few times, Lily would change her mind. Call me. Tell me it was a misunderstanding. She didn't. House after house, window after window, I saw the same scene play out. Families around tables, hands passing dishes, glasses clinking, faces tilted back in laughter. At one home, an older man I'd never seen before raised a glass as his grandchildren climbed all over him, their small hands tugging at his sleeves. They posed for a selfie, all of them pressed together. I turned away. By the time I'd circled the neighborhood twice, my feet hurt and my hands were numb. The paper around the gift in my hand had grown soft from the moisture in the air. My daughter had sent me away like an unwanted guest. Worse, like an embarrassment. Go whine somewhere else. I don't think she understood what those words did, how they lodged under my ribs like a splinter. I found myself at the small park at the end of their street. The trees were skeletal, their leaves already carpeting the ground. The playground was empty, swings swaying slightly in the wind. I sat on a damp bench and tried to decide what to do next. Go home, I told myself. Heat up some soup, watch something meaningless on television. Pretend this never happened. Then I heard it. A thin, desperate sound from behind the bushes near the pathway. A high, tremulous meowing. I frowned, pushing myself up with stiff knees, following the noise. Pushing aside a branch, I saw it. A small ball of matted fur, shivering, pressed against the trunk of a bush as if it could vanish inside it. Big eyes, too large for its head, blinked up at me. Its tiny ribs rose and fell too fast. A kitten. "Where did you come from?" I asked, my voice softer than it had been in months. It meowed again, louder this time, as if answering. I crouched carefully, knees protesting, and held out my fingers. It sniffed, then rubbed its head against my knuckles with a surprising hunger for contact. Nobody ever teaches cats about pride. They just know when they are cold and alone. "Easy," I murmured. No collar, no sign of a frantic owner. The park was mostly empty. Across the street, families were still laughing through their windows, the world lit with warm orange light. Someone had left this little thing outside, just like Lily had left me. I slipped the kitten inside my coat. It did not resist. It burrowed instinctively against the warmth of my chest, tiny claws kneading the lining as if kneading bread. "Well," I said to it quietly, feeling the warmth spread slowly from that little body to mine. "I guess you and I are strays today." I walked back to my car, the kitten tucked against my heart, and drove home through streets that were now dark and shining with rain. The house greeted me with silence when I opened the door. No smells of roasting turkey, no clatter of dishes, just the faint ticking of the kitchen clock and the hum of the refrigerator. I set the gift box on the hall table and hung up my coat. The kitten poked its head out, blinking at the unfamiliar surroundings. "In here," I said. In the kitchen I found an old saucer, rinsed it, and poured some milk. I knew you are not supposed to give cats too much milk, but in that moment, rules felt secondary to kindness. The kitten attacked the saucer like it hadn't eaten in days. I watched it, feeling something loosen in my chest. "You'll need a name," I said. "Can't just call you Cat." It ignored me, busy with its feast. "Found you on Thanksgiving," I mused. "Pumpkin would be too silly. Cranberry? No. Thursday?" It paused, looked up at me, nose white with milk, then meowed. "Thursday it is," I said. The name stuck. When the saucer was empty, Thursday licked it carefully, then wandered around the kitchen, sniffing everything with great suspicion. I leaned back against the counter. My eyes drifted, despite myself, to the hallway, to the bedroom, to the closet, and to the safe behind Margaret's shawl. I bought that safe 20 years ago. It's not particularly large, about the size of 2 stacked shoeboxes, but it is heavy, with a combination lock that clicks in a satisfying way under your fingers. Inside, I kept the things that mattered most: our marriage certificate, Margaret's letters from when we were first dating, copies of important account numbers, a photograph of Lily at 6, missing her front teeth, holding a drawing that said, "Best Dad," in crooked letters. And, in the last few years, envelopes of cash. Not because I didn't trust banks, I worked in one for 35 years, but because there is something grounding about the physical reality of money. Numbers on a screen have no weight. Bundles of notes do. For the last decade, I'd been adding to one particular envelope. A thick one, tucked at the back, labeled in Margaret's neat handwriting. For Lily's house. It was Margaret's idea originally. "We should pay it off for her one day," she'd said, years ago, when Lily and Bryce first bought the place. "Imagine the relief. No more mortgage. A real home. That would be a real gift, Howard. Better than any vacation." After she died, the idea became a mission. Every month after the mortgage payment left my account, I would move a smaller amount into that envelope. Sometimes a little, sometimes more, depending on what I could spare. By the time Thanksgiving rolled around that year, the envelope was fat. $900,000. I had calculated it carefully. Between that and the equity they'd already paid, they would be able to walk into the bank and clear their mortgage in one visit. My plan had been simple. On Christmas, I would invite them over. There would be dinner, perhaps a few awkward moments. Then I'd hand Lily the envelope and the paperwork I'd prepared with my lawyer. A formal letter stating the gift, instructions for the bank. Of course, I'd also set the will so that, upon my death, any remaining debts on the house would be cleared by my estate. I may be an old man, but I am thorough. That had been the plan. It died on my daughter's front porch when she told me I didn't belong at their table. Thursday trailed me down the hall as I walked to the bedroom. I discovered quickly that Thursday was a he, trotted with surprising confidence for such a small creature, tail held high, pausing at each doorway to peer in as if inspecting. In the dimness of my bedroom, the familiar shadows seemed deeper. Margaret's shawl hung in the closet, exactly where she'd left it the last winter we spent together. For a long time after she passed, I couldn't bear to touch it. Recently I'd begun moving it aside when I needed the safe. I reached for it now, fingers brushing the soft wool, and uncovered the metal door. The dial was cold smooth under my fingertips as I spun it through the combination. 8 numbers I could recite in my sleep. Click. The door opened. Inside, everything sat where it always had. Nothing had changed physically. But in my mind, everything had shifted. I lifted the thick envelope. It had weight. It sank into my palm like a stone. $900,000. I'd often imagined Lily's face when I handed it to her. Shock, disbelief, then tears perhaps, a hug, maybe even a soft, choked, "Dad, I'm sorry for how distant I've been. Thank you." Instead, the last words I'd heard from her were, "Go whine somewhere else." I set the envelope on the bed and stared at it. Thursday jumped up beside it, investigating, paw delicately tapping the corner. "That," I told him, "is a house." He meowed, unimpressed. I opened the envelope and fanned the notes out. I am not a vengeful man by nature. I have spent my life balancing books, not settling scores. My instinct has always been to fix, to soothe, to adjust quietly. But something hardened in me that night as I looked at that money. My daughter did not see me as family. She saw me as a burden, as someone who might make her guests uncomfortable, as a source of shame. But she had no idea that her comfort, her security, her very roof, depended on the man she had just evicted like an unwanted guest. "No more," I whispered. The word startled even me. Thursday looked up, ears twitching. I went back to the safe and pulled out the folder with my will inside. Margaret and I had drafted the original years before. We'd updated it after her passing. Then the bulk had gone to Lily, the house, the accounts, the investments, the envelope for the mortgage. I sat at my small writing desk, spread the papers out, and read them slowly. My name, my assets, my instructions. They all assumed one thing, that my daughter loved me, that she would care for my memory, that she would pass that care on to my grandchildren. My hand did not shake when I reached for the pen. I did not disinherit her completely. In spite of what had happened that evening, she was still my child. There are bonds you cannot erase with one cruel sentence. But I took away the easy path. The house would go into a trust, no longer automatically hers. The cash for the mortgage would be redirected, primarily to an animal rescue foundation Margaret had always admired, with a separate provision for Thursday, ensuring he would be cared for if I died first. Lily would still receive something, an amount that would keep her from starving, an amount that would remind her that I had loved her, but no longer an amount that would allow her to keep living as if money fell from the sky. As for the mortgage payments, I opened my laptop. My fingers knew the banking app password by heart. Within a few clicks, I was looking at the familiar line. Automatic transfer. Lily and Bryce mortgage. First of each month. I hovered over the button. Cancel. I thought of her words. "You wouldn't be interested with us anyway. You just don't fit in. Go whine somewhere else." I clicked. The confirmation popped up. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I said aloud, and pressed confirm. The line disappeared from the schedule. The world did not end. The house did not crumble. Somewhere my daughter ladled gravy onto plates, laughed at jokes, passed cranberry sauce. She had no idea that a countdown had begun. I closed the laptop, put the will and the envelope back in the safe, and shut it with a solid final thud. When I turned, Thursday was staring at me from the bed, head tilted. "Well," I said, picking him up gently. He curled into my hands without hesitation. "Looks like you're my only family now." It was meant as a bitter joke, but the words tasted too close to the truth. I carried him back to the living room. As I sank into my armchair, he climbed up onto my chest, kneaded twice, then settled, purring. His warmth seeped into my aching bones. Outside, the night was cold and dark. Inside, for the first time in years, I did not feel entirely alone. The first sign that my decision had consequences came some weeks later, just after New Year's. I was in the kitchen rinsing out my coffee cup when my phone buzzed on the counter. "Lily," the screen said. For a moment I considered letting it go to voicemail. We hadn't spoken since Thanksgiving, not beyond a short, stiff text from her the day after. "Sorry about yesterday. Emotions were high. Hope you got home safe." I had replied with a single word. "Fine." Now she was calling. I answered on the third ring. "Hello? Dad?" Her voice was tight, higher than usual. "Did you change something with the bank?" My heart rate did not change, but my hand tightened slightly on the cup. "I change a lot of things with banks," I said. "You'll have to be more specific." "Our mortgage," she said quickly. "Bryce went to check something today, and they said the payment for December didn't go through, and January is marked overdue. They said the external support transfer stopped." "External support transfer," I repeated. "Is that what they call it?" "They said there was a standing order from a third party that's no longer active," she rushed on, ignoring my tone. "Did you cancel something?" "Yes," I said. Silence. You stopped paying?" Her voice cracked. "I did," I answered evenly. "Why?" Her tone rose, disbelieving. "Dad, why on earth would you do that without telling me?" "I didn't think you'd be interested in my presence in your finances," I replied. "It's a different crowd, you understand. You just don't fit in with my budgeting." "Dad," she said sharply, "this is serious. We're 2 months behind. The bank says if we don't get caught up, they'll start proceedings." "They will send you letters first," I said, "then notices. It takes time." "How can you be so calm?" she demanded. "You're talking about our home, your grandchildren's home." I closed my eyes briefly. "It's not my home," I said quietly. "You made that very clear." That was Thanksgiving," she burst out. I was stressed. "Bryce's parents wanted to relax as a family," I finished. She went silent. When she spoke again, her anger had cooled into something harder. "So that's it? You're punishing me? You're going to let us lose our house because of a fight?" "I am not punishing you," I said. "I am simply stepping back from a role you didn't know I played and clearly didn't value." "You offered to help," she insisted. "You said you'd take care of it." "And I did," I said. "For years, quietly, without complaint. While you bought new cars and went on vacations and booked expensive photographers for holiday photos. You never once asked how the numbers added up. Perhaps you should start asking now." Her breath hissed through the line. "We will find another way," she snapped. "You'll see. We don't need your money." "I truly hope you manage," I said. She hung up without saying goodbye. I set the phone down and looked at Thursday, who was watching me from the back of a chair, tail twitching. That, I told him, is the sound of consequences. He flicked an ear, unimpressed, and jumped down to chase a dust mote in the sunlight. The letter started a month later. I know this because Lily brought one to my house, crumpled and wilted from being clenched in her fist. She knocked on my door on a bleak February afternoon, face flushed with cold and fury. When I opened, she pushed past me without waiting for an invitation, just like she used to when she was 14 and late for curfew. "Look at this," she said, slamming the letter onto my kitchen table. I picked it up. Standard Bank stationery. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Porter, we are writing to inform you that your mortgage account is now 3 months in arrears. 3 months, she said shakily. We paid what we could, but without the transfer, we can't cover it. Bryce's new job pays less. The kids need... Dad, we have uniforms to buy, food, bills. Everything is so expensive. You could sell the SUV, I said mildly. She glared at me. Bryce needs it for work. Does he need the top trim with the leather seats and moonroof? I asked. Or would a cheaper model have sufficed? This isn't about the car, she snapped. It is about many things, I replied. Mostly choices. She pulled out a chair and sat heavily. For a moment the bravado cracked, and I saw my little girl again, the one who came to me in tears when she got a C on a math test, terrified I'd be disappointed. I didn't know you were paying so much, she whispered. I thought you were just helping with a little interest or something. You never asked, I said gently. You were content to accept that the numbers somehow always worked out. Is it because of Thanksgiving? She asked suddenly, looking up. Are you getting back at me? I could have lied. I chose not to. It showed me something, I admitted. Not just the words you said, but how easily you could say them. How comfortable everyone was with the idea of me not being there. I realized, sitting at home that night, that I had been carrying a load for people who did not want me there, except as a wallet. She flinched. That's not true. No, I asked. When was the last time you came over to see me? Just me, not because you needed something? When was the last time you asked about my health, my day, my memories? She opened her mouth and closed it again. Exactly, I said. The kids love you, she said weakly. I adore them, I replied, which is why I quietly paid for their home, but I will not do it any more at the cost of my dignity. She stared at the letter. They said if we don't make a plan, they'll send it to legal, she murmured. Then make a plan, I said. Sell the car, cancel the club membership, move to a smaller house, talk to Bryce's parents. They have plenty, from what I've seen. She winced. They don't see finances the way you do, she said. They think, well, they said if you can't help, we should learn to stand on our own. So they are willing to let their son and grandchildren lose their home on principle, I said. Lily didn't respond. Her face said enough. Did you tell them how much I've been paying? I asked. Do they know that the house they love visiting was propped up by the man they shooed away from the table? No, she whispered. I didn't think. People rarely do until the floor gives way, I said. She pressed her fingers to her temples. What do you want from me? She asked suddenly, voice rising. Do you want me to apologize? To beg? I looked at her for a long moment. An apology, I said slowly, is a beginning, but it is not a down payment. Her eyes filled with tears. We're going to lose the house, she whispered. Yes, I said quietly. You probably are. The second hook came a few weeks later, though I didn't recognize it as such at the time. It was a Saturday when she came again. She did not knock this time. She rang the bell repeatedly until I shuffled to the door, Thursday weaving around my ankles, irritated. When I opened, she stood there with 2 suitcases at her feet and a look on her face I'd never seen before. Not anger, Not indignation. Fear. Real, bone-deep fear. "Dad," she said hoarsely. "Bryce's parents said no." I stepped aside, letting her in. She walked into my small living room as if in a trance, hands still gripping the suitcase handles. "What happened?" I asked. "They said they might help with a loan," she replied mechanically, "if Bryce divorced me." The words seemed to hang in the air like smoke. I sank slowly into my chair. "What?" "They think I'm reckless," she said, laughter bubbling up hysterically before choking off. "They said I rely too much on you, that I never learned to stand on my own. They said they won't throw good money after bad, not unless their son corrects his course." "And what does Bryce say?" I asked. "He's considering it," she whispered. Silence pooled in the room. Thursday jumped up on my lap, sensing the tension. I left for a bit," Lily said. "I couldn't breathe. I needed to think. I didn't know where else to go." The irony did not escape me. When she wanted to relax as a family, I was excluded. Now that her family was splintering, she came to the man she'd cast out. "Dad," she said suddenly, dropping her suitcases. She fell to her knees beside my chair so quickly I barely had time to react. Her hands grabbed mine, clinging desperately. "Please, please, help us. Help me. I'll do anything. I'll apologize. I'm sorry. I was cruel. I was ungrateful. I didn't understand. Please don't let them take the house." Her shoulders shook. "I can't move the kids again," she sobbed. "They love their rooms, their school, their friends. I know I've been a terrible daughter. I know I hurt you. But please, Dad, please." I had imagined this moment once, with a certain grim satisfaction. I thought I'd feel vindicated, powerful even, watching her finally grasp what I had done for her. Instead, all I felt was tired, very tired. She lowered her head, pressing her forehead against the back of my hand like a penitent at an altar. "I'll change," she whispered. "I swear, I'll come see you. I'll call. I'll listen. I'll get a job. I'll sell the car. Whatever you say, just don't let them take everything." Her tears soaked into my skin. I looked down at my daughter. My grown daughter. My little girl. The one I'd carried on my shoulders at the fair. The one who'd fallen asleep in the back seat clutching a stuffed bear. The one Margaret and I had watched walk across a graduation stage, our hands clasped in silent pride. I thought of the envelope in my safe, of the canceled transfer, of the will, reconfigured to protect a kitten instead of a daughter. It would have been easy, in that moment, to reach for my phone, call the bank, and start the machine up again. They would have welcomed my money. But I thought of that Thanksgiving, of her go whine somewhere else, of the way no one at that table had protested when I was shown the door. Consequences matter. Not to crush people, to teach them. I took a breath. "Stand up, Lily," I said gently. She obeyed, unsteady, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "Sit," I said, pointing to the sofa. She sat, hands twisting in her lap. Thursday jumped lightly from my knees to hers, as if he sensed that the center of gravity in the room had shifted. "You want me to save your house," I said. "Yes," she whispered. "And you think you deserve that?" "No," she said quickly, eyes filling again. "I know I don't, but the kids—" "The kids," I interrupted, "are not responsible for your choices. They will hurt, but they will heal. Children survive far worse than moving." She swallowed hard. "I had planned," I said slowly, "to pay off your mortgage in full. Do you know that?" Her head snapped up. "What?" "I had an envelope," I continued. $900,000. Years of saving, planning, carefully setting aside. My Christmas plan was to invite you and Bryce over, give you that money, and let you walk into the bank and clear your debt. She stared at me as if I'd grown a second head. Dad, that's true, I said. You have no idea how much I have done quietly for you. That is not your fault entirely. I shielded you from it. But I expected one thing in return. Basic respect. A seat at your table. Her face crumpled. The night you told me to go whine somewhere else, I said softly. I came home and fed Thursday, and I opened the safe, and I looked at that envelope and at my will. Then I canceled the payments and rewrote my plans. She covered her mouth with her hand, a small stifled sound escaping. I took your house away, I said. Not by burning it down. Not by calling the bank and betraying you. Simply by stepping away and letting reality catch up to you. Tears spilled down her cheeks. If I rescue you again now, I went on, what will you learn? That I can always push you away, she whispered, and you'll still catch me. Yes, I said. And if you don't, she choked. Then you will have to face the consequences of your actions like any adult, I replied. You will downsize. You will cut back. You will see who stands with you when you have nothing. You will decide what family means to you in practice, not in holiday photos. She sobbed. I understand, she said. I do, you're right. I was horrible. I thought you'd always be there. I will, I said quietly, but not always with my wallet. We sat in silence for a long time. Eventually her breathing slowed. Will you still talk to me? She asked, voice small. If we lose the house? Yes, I said. Will you see the kids? Of course. Will you ever forgive me? I reached out and took her hand. I already have, I said. Her eyes widened. What? Forgiveness, I said, does not mean removing consequences. It means I will not hold your words against you forever. It means I am open to a different future. But that future cannot start on a foundation of denial and bailouts. It has to start with truth. She nodded slowly. I will be there, I continued. When you pack boxes, when you move, when the kids cry. I will help you find a smaller place. I will loan you some money for a security deposit, paid back over time. I will not, however, restore this life as if nothing has happened. Her shoulders slumped. But, she whispered, the neighbors, they'll see. They'll gossip. Let them, I said. Your life is not a performance for people who will not even bring you a casserole when things go wrong. She gave a shaky laugh through her tears. That, she said, sounds like something Mom would say. I swallowed hard. Yes, I said, it does. Thursday head-butted her hand until she began absent-mindedly stroking his fur. In that moment, with my daughter on my couch, red-eyed and humbled, my cat purring between us, I realized something. This, not the big house, not the holiday photos, not the brand-name clothes. This was family. Messy, broken, trying again. The foreclosure process took months. Banks move slowly until they move all at once. Letters turned into phone calls. Phone calls turned into formal notices. Formal notices turned into a date. I did not attend the actual auction. That would have been too much even for my hardened heart. But I did drive past the house a week before they were due to vacate. It was a warm day in late spring. The maple tree in the front yard was full of leaves again, casting dappled shadows on the lawn. The lawn itself was scattered with boxes. Furniture was being carried out by harried movers. The expensive sectional that had once hosted sleek adult parties now looked like any other piece of second-hand furniture, awkward in the sunlight. Lily stood on the porch, directing, hair pulled back, face pale but set. She'd lost weight. Stress will do that. The kids sat on the steps, legs dangling, eyes confused. Their world was literally being carried out around them. Bryce moved like a man underwater. As I parked my old sedan across the street, Bryce's car pulled up. The same SUV, though now with a for sale sign in the back window. He climbed out, ignoring me, and went straight to the porch. "I talked to my parents again," he told Lily. "They said they're sorry it's come to this, but they still think it's for the best. They said if I want to move back in for a while, alone, they'd consider helping me out." "And what did you say?" Lily asked without looking at him. "I said no," he replied quietly. "I'm not leaving you. I helped dig this hole." She exhaled. For all his flaws, in that moment I respected him. "Dad?" Lily said suddenly, noticing me. She walked down the path to the sidewalk, wiping her hands on her jeans. "I didn't think you'd come." "I told you," I said. "I'll be here." She looked back at the chaos. "I keep thinking it's a nightmare," she murmured, "that I'll wake up and the house will still be ours. The kids keep asking if we'll ever come back here. I don't know what to tell them." "The truth," I said, "that sometimes when you live beyond your means and treat people badly, life pushes back, that homes are not guaranteed, that family is not measured in square footage." She nodded slowly. "You found a new place?" I asked. "A small townhouse across town," she said. 2 bedrooms. We'll put the kids in the bigger one. We'll sleep on a pull-out in the living room until we can afford more." "That's a good start," I said. She looked at me. "I know you could have stopped this," she said, not accusingly, just stating a fact. "I'm not asking why you didn't anymore. I understand. But thank you for being here now." "I'm your father," I said simply. She stepped forward suddenly and hugged me. Not the stiff, careful hugs of the last few years. A real one. She held on a long time. In the weeks that followed, I helped in small, practical ways. I spent afternoons at the new townhouse, painting walls, assembling flat-pack furniture, while Thursday explored every box and bag like an inspector. I babysat the kids while Lily went to interviews. She got a job at a local clinic, answering phones. The pay wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. Bryce sold the SUV, bought a second-hand compact, and took shifts at a warehouse in addition to his main job. They were not the people I'd known a year before. The ones who thought every celebration required a catered event and a hired photographer. They were quieter now, more careful. Sometimes, in the evenings, Lily would come over after work, exhausted, and sit at my kitchen table with a cup of tea. "I never noticed how tired you always looked when I was a kid," she said once, watching me drain the sink after washing dishes. "You'd come home, eat, then sit in that chair and rub your temples. I thought you were just old." "I was in my 30s, I said dryly. She grimaced. "Sorry." "You see things differently when you're the one paying the bills," I said. She nodded. "I was so blind," she murmured. "I thought the money just appeared, that you and Mom somehow had it all figured out. I never understood the weight you carried. And then I did the same thing, with you, letting you pay for my life while I ignored you." I shrugged. "Better late than never," I said. "Some people go to their graves never realizing how others held them up." She looked at Thursday, who'd hopped onto her lap. "At least someone's living his best life," she said, stroking his fur. "He earned it," I replied. "He was there the night I nearly rewrote my entire life out of spite." "You still changed your will?" she asked cautiously. "Yes," I said, "but I can change it again." She looked hopeful, then caught herself, shaking her head. "Do it only if you want to," she said quickly. "Not because you feel guilty. I don't want your money to be the only reason you and I talk again." "That's already not the case," I said. "You're sitting here now without asking for a check." She smiled faintly. "Progress," she said. It was almost a year later, on another late November afternoon, when I truly understood that something fundamental had changed. I was in my living room, Thursday draped across the back of the couch like a contented scarf, when the phone rang. "Dad?" Lily's voice sounded nervous, but not the frantic kind I'd grown used to during the worst of their crisis. This was anticipation. Yes? I wanted to invite you to Thanksgiving, she said. I raised an eyebrow, though she couldn't see it. Again? She winced audibly. Yes, again. But this time, it will be different. How so? Well, she said, forcing a lightness that didn't quite land. For one thing, we can't afford a photographer, or a huge turkey, or a dozen side dishes. It'll be simpler. Just us. Maybe a pie if I don't burn it. And you'll sit at the table. If you want to. If I want to, I repeated. I know I don't have the right to ask, she rushed on. Last year was the worst thing I've ever done. I think about it every day. I see you standing on the porch when I close my eyes. I can't forgive myself, even if you forgave me. But the kids keep asking if Grandpa will be there this time, and She took a breath. I would like you there, Dad, she said simply. I want my father at my table. The image of that last Thanksgiving flashed briefly through my mind. The flash of the camera, the weight of the jacket thrown at me, the cold walk around the neighborhood, the kitten in the bushes. I glanced at Thursday. He looked back at me, unblinking. Will Bryce's parents be there? I asked. No, she said. We don't see them much anymore. They made their choices. We made ours. Will you send me away if I don't laugh at the right jokes? I asked. Her voice cracked. Never again, she whispered. Will I be allowed to whine? I asked softly. You can do whatever you want, she replied, as long as you come. It would have been easy to hold on to the hurt, to use it forever as a shield, but life is short. Too short, I had learned, to spend it clinging to grudges like life rafts. Yes, I said, I'll come. She sobbed once, quietly, then sniffed. Okay, she said. Good. We'll eat at 3. The kids will probably attack you at the door. They've been planning questions for you. About the old days, she added with a watery laugh. After we hung up, I went to the bedroom. This time, when I opened the closet, I did not feel the same cold, hard anger I'd felt a year ago. Margaret's shawl brushed my hand like a blessing as I moved it aside. I opened the safe. The envelope was thinner now. I had redirected part of it to the animal rescue, as planned. Thursday had his own small fund, more as a joke than anything. Cats do not understand trusts. But there was still money there. Not enough to pay off a mortgage. Enough for something else. I sat at my desk and took out my will. I adjusted a few lines. The trust would still ensure I did not leave Lily in charge of more than she could handle at once. But the strictness softened. Instead of dividing everything sharply away from her, I allowed for gradual support. Funds released as she met certain conditions. Stable employment, no high-interest debt. Continued contact with me and with her own children. It was not about control. It was about responsibility. I added another provision for a college fund for the grandkids. Education, at least, they would not have to fear. As I signed the updated pages, I could almost hear Margaret's voice behind me. About time, she'd say. You always needed a push. I had a furry one this time, I murmured, scratching Thursday under the chin. He purred, approval vibrating through my hand. Thanksgiving was different the second time. Their townhouse was smaller than the old house, but it felt fuller. The furniture was a mismatch of things saved from the old place and second-hand finds. The dining table was slightly too small for all of us, so we squeezed in tighter, elbows bumping, knees touching. It felt more like the Thanksgivings of my childhood. The turkey was a little dry. The mashed potatoes had lumps. The gravy was slightly burned. It was perfect. Grandpa, tell us about when Mom was little, my granddaughter demanded, her plate still full, attention fixed on me rather than the food. Yeah, her brother added. Tell us about when there were dinosaurs." "There were no dinosaurs," I protested. "Were there knights?" he asked. "No knights," I said. "But there was a very dramatic third-grade school play where your mother forgot all her lines." "Dad!" Lily groaned, flushing, eyes shining. The kids squealed, delighted. As we ate, there were no photographers, no orchestrated poses, just moments. Bryce's phone buzzed once. He glanced at it, then put it face down on the counter. "Work?" I asked. "My parents," he said quietly. "I'll call them later." "Tell them we had a lovely day," I said. He looked at me. "Thank you," he said, "not just for the meal." "Don't thank me," I replied. "Do right by my daughter and grandkids. That's enough." Later, after pie, Lily and I stood side by side at the sink, washing dishes. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked suddenly, voice low enough that the kids, arguing over a board game in the living room, couldn't hear. "Regret what?" I asked. "Stopping the payments," she said. "Letting us lose the house." I thought of the big place with its polished floors and hollow rooms. Of the dinners where I'd sat at the edge, uninvited into the center of my own family's life. "No," I said. "Do you?" She stared at the soapy water. "Yes," she whispered. And no, the house was a dream. But it was also a trap. It kept me pretending everything was fine while I ignored the truth. Losing it hurt. But it woke me up, and it brought me back here, to you. She nudged my shoulder gently. "And to Thursday," she added, as the cat wove himself between our ankles, demanding attention. "He was the real turning point," I said solemnly. "Without him, I might have rewritten my will to leave everything to a library." She laughed, the sound ringing through the small kitchen, echoing somewhere in the space where my grief for Margaret had carved a hollow. "You know," she said softly, "sometimes I think Mom sent him." I did not argue. Some things are not for logic. We finished the dishes in companionable silence. When I left later that evening, the kids hugged me so hard I almost stumbled. "Next time, can we come to your house?" my grandson asked. "Grandma's house?" It was the first time any of them had called it that. "Yes," I said. "We'll make cookies. They'll be terrible. But we'll eat them anyway." On the drive home, the sky darkened early, as it does in late November. Streetlights flickered on. Through windows I saw families at tables, laughing, sharing, some shouting. Not all of them were picture perfect. Some looked tired, some looked messy. But in the car with me, the passenger seat was not empty. Thursday, secured in his carrier, meowed in protest at every bump. "Easy," I said. "We're going home." Home. Not the house I'd almost given away to a daughter who didn't see me. Not the house she'd lost because of her own blindness and my overdue boundaries. A smaller word. A bigger thing. My life did not become a fairy tale after that. There were still arguments. There were still moments when Lily's pride flared and mine answered. There were tight months when her hours got cut and I slipped a little extra into her grocery envelope pretending it was a mistake. But there was also this. She called. Not just when she needed something, but when she'd heard an old song that reminded her of Mom. When the kids did something funny. When she passed our old house and felt a twist in her chest. We saw each other. We held hands at the doctor's office when my knees needed looking at. We went to the park with the kids and Thursday in a harness, much to everyone's amusement. I changed my will one last time, not out of anger, not out of guilt, but out of calm consideration. When I die, Lily will not become rich overnight. She will be comfortable. She will know that I trusted her enough to leave her something, but not so much that she can forget the lessons she learned when the bank letters came. And somewhere in those carefully typed lines is a small clause about a cat named Thursday, who turned up in the bushes the night I was sent away from a family table. He gets a line in my story, just like my daughter does, just like my wife does. On my worst day, I thought it might be the end. Standing outside that bright, warm house with my jacket in my hands, watching silhouettes dance behind the curtains, I felt like a dog that had been kicked off the porch. It was not the end. It was the beginning of a painful, necessary unraveling. Sometimes losing a house is the price you pay to rebuild a home, and sometimes the only way to teach someone what you're worth is to stop paying the bill they never knew you were covering. My daughter lost her perfect mortgage. She lost the approval of her in-laws. She lost her place in society's little parade of status. But in the end, on her own uneven terms, on a smaller street in a smaller home, she found something else. Her father. And this time, when we take a family photo, it is on an old phone, in bad lighting, with someone's elbow half in the frame. But when my daughter looks at the picture, she doesn't say, "I'll send it to you by mail, bye." She says, "Dad, come sit here, in the middle." And I do.
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.